Radio Rahim with Eddie Hearn. We're in Chicago, Midtown, man. I can't blame you for sipping on coffee. You must be having some late nights here recently.
I've never been so pleased to see a Starbucks couple. Shout out to Brittany at Matchroom Boxing, brought it over to me.
Well, credit to you for being able to slip guys in last minute. It seems to be like half of your job these days.
You got to be ready now. You got to be ready because, unfortunately, we do so much drug testing. People are going to get failed tests. And you got to be ready, you got to be on the ball, you got to have a good team of people around, because otherwise, you've seen before, shows fall through. Fighters get annoyed, you know. It's our job to go to work, and like, it's funny because over time, when that situation happens, you know, we got the call at 10 p.m. Monday, UK time, just to let you know, Margaret Goodman phones up, hi, sorry, what's that, Tyrone Spong's failed a drugs test, we sent it to the commission, you know. Thanks, Margaret. Thank you very much. It's almost like you want the cut-off to be the Friday before. Like, don't give us any more results after Friday. But seriously, like, and you know, I know this is a weird thing to say, but maybe it will put promoters off doing testing because it fucks you, like, as a promoter. I mean, we got away with it, and we've got away with it again because we're good at what we do, and we go to work quickly. But like, you know, if this would have come on, look at the Dillian White situation. Again, UCAD ruled he could fight, but that was on a Thursday night. That was 2 days before a big show, you know, and I don't know the answer. I don't know the answer for any of this because it's a mess. And they sent it to the commission. Then the commission were closed for the day. So they can't give a rule until the morning, but you know, you think it's likely they're not going to license him, but we'll see. And then we go out and start phoning around. You know, we've got a lot of these guys, Chaz included, are guys that have been considered and in the mix for like Parker, you know, Chisora, Gassiev, like all these guys are heavyweight. So you know. There's 4 or 5 people, you know, hey, mate, you all right, mate? You know some people that are in shape and ready and looking to fight. He had a fight, Chaz had a fight scheduled as well. Yeah.
Now, what do you do about the drug testing for the guys that are waiting in the rings? I mean, the wings. Surely they're not going through the regimen.
No, unfortunately not. But I mean, there's nothing you can, you know, in that situation, there's nothing you can do. You know, we make sure that for all main events on DAZN, and you know, this is one of the things that DAZN are insistent on as well, that we have VADA testing. We do more testing. We spend hundreds of thousands, probably could be close to millions of dollars on drug testing every year. And the only thing that comes back really is still criticism and aggravation from dealing with fighters passing. But we can't just say, oh, you know, it messes up our promotion. Like, it's one or the other, but no one else is doing it. So why aren't these other promoters constantly doing VADA tests in all their fights?
Well, the fighters, at least the ones that pop dirty, of course, seem to be blaming you. Like, now it's a conspiracy theory.
Well, apparently, no, Tyrone Spong said that they'd done a face-off, Usyk was scared, and we manipulated a failed drugs test with VADA. I mean, with all due respect to Tyrone Spong, I'd rather have not been staying up till 3 o'clock in the morning, having just landed from New York in London to try and find an opponent for Usyk. You know, like, so I'm not here to comment on Tyrone Spong. What I know is he failed a test and it was dealt with by VADA and the commission, and they decided they wouldn't license him. Now it's over to him. Appeal, do what you want to do. He's not my fighter. I've never met him in my life. I have no feeling towards him. He failed for a women's pregnancy, something that spikes your testosterone or masks other steroids, amongst other things. But again, I don't really know anything about it, other than I got a call, that got sent to the commission, and you wait for a ruling from the people in charge. Once they tell you he can fight, he can fight. Once they tell you he can't fight, he can't fight. The answer was, he can't fight. So then you get another opponent. So
now, as last-minute replacements go, and guys who nobody thinks can win, you're not having a great track record this year. You've thrown yet another heavyweight in here. This could be the second Henry Ruiz.
But the thing is, it's a double-edged sword, isn't it? Although it's my job to obviously make the right fight, I'm also a fan. Like, we've sold 9,000 tickets in Chicago, right? I want a good fight, you know? So I wanted someone that I believe was technically good enough, and that's hard when it's Usyk. But I wanted a big guy who can punch a little bit, you know, who's not just going to roll over. And that's when the main thing to discuss is, when you're looking at it, are you going to try? I know that's a crazy thing to say, but that's what I really want to ask the opponents. Are you going to try for me in this fight? You know, because I don't want you to come, get hit and go over in the first round and everyone boos and moans. I believe with Chaz, having watched enough of him over the years, he can fight, he knows how to fight, he's a big heavyweight, he can punch a little bit as well, and I think he'll have a go. Other guys we looked at as well, probably 5 or 6 guys. Some weren't fit, didn't fit for other reasons. And I think we got a guy, particularly what I mainly wanted, which was a big guy, in Usyk's heavyweight debut. Do you know what I mean? Didn't want a small heavyweight, I wanted a guy that actually looked like a, you know, because, and by the way, Usyk hasn't boxed for a year. Nearly.
Right, he hasn't boxed for a year, never boxed heavyweight.
Yeah.
He's already calling himself the best heavyweight in the world, and calling out Deontay Wilder.
Yeah. Sounds like he's going to get beat on Saturday then. Yeah. Listen, anything can happen when Chaz can punch. Like, you know, I don't think he wins, and I think Usyk looks good and knocks him out, but Chaz will let his hands go, you know, and he can punch. So, we'll see.
Well, as Usyk's promoter, hearing those words already, made you a little nervous. Maybe.
He's mandatory for the world title, Usyk, for the WBO world title. So really, he shouldn't even be boxing. But of course, he's got to box. But every fight comes with risk, especially in the heavyweight division. You know, because you've got guys with 10-ounce gloves on that are going to let their hands go, and they're big boys. And by the way, some people don't realise, like, it's really not ideal for someone to take a fight on 4 days' notice. I'm talking about Usyk. Forget Witherspoon. I'm talking about Usyk, right? When he's been in camp preparing for someone completely different. So people go, oh yeah, but it's still 4 days out. You've been working with your technical stuff with Spong and out what he's going to do. Now you've just got this other guy you never really watched before, and now you've got to go away and do your study on that. You know, so it's not ideal for anyone. But we've, you know, like I said, we've sold a huge amount of tickets here. Everybody's. And again, with all due respect to Spong, that didn't go down great either. That announcement of opponent, and it wasn't about Tyrone Spong, it was about Usyk at heavyweight. But as long as I have a proper heavyweight who can punch in front of him, that he's going to try. That's what I want. I want a guy that's going to try.
Well, a guy that always tries and makes a hell of a lot of noise just called you out last week, of all people, Conor McGregor.
Oh, yeah, but you might know better than me. Like, when someone says, dance for me, Eddie, is that good? Is that bad? I mean, is that like, yeah, baby, dance for me, Eddie? Or is that, dance for me, bitch? Like,
it's kind of like when you told Deontay Wilder to bring his udders over so you can milk him.
Oh, right, yeah, same thing.
It's a bit of both.
Yeah, okay, so it's a little bit of encouragement. Okay,
Yeah.
okay, yeah. Yeah, and then he retweeted that, and then he retweeted another one after, like me saying, because actually the interview that I gave couldn't have been more complimentary. You know, I said he's a legend. I said he's a great self-promoter. You know, I said he is the UFC. You know, so I was thinking, I hope you've read that interview because it was quite nice. So, and then I just sent a meme back, just dancing for him. You know, because I would dance for him. I would do anything he wanted to do. You know, within reason.
Would you put him in the boxing ring?
Yeah, of course. Of course. Mate, Conor McGregor, I'm putting KSI and Logan Paul in the boxing ring. Surely I can put Conor McGregor in the boxing ring.
That's fair. Dana White has made quite a bit of noise talking about coming into the sport, ignoring all the sanctioning bodies, and the only people he mentioned that he felt he could work with was you and Al Heyman. Is Dana White someone that you could work with, and what do you think about him just ignoring sanctioning bodies and basically creating something like the UFC for boxing?
I can work with anybody. That's the truth. I've met Dana White once. I'll take people on face value, right? So if I've never met someone before, I'm not going to give you my opinion on them. What I give you my opinion on about Dana White is I met him once and he couldn't have been more welcoming to me. I was at the UFC training camp. He took the time to take me to his new Arena 2 streaming facility to show me his business, how it works, you know, and it was he's a smart man. I can't know how many times I've said about the UFC how we look at what they're doing, you know, and that's probably the best compliment that I could give them. You know, I look at what they're doing in terms of how they built their brand, in terms of how they create that live experience. and you know, we try and replicate a lot of it, steal it sometimes, you know, copy it. It's a bit like so they've built a great business. Boxing is different, you know. It would really frustrate Dana White. I remember the first time I met him, it was like, why don't they just make like, you know, I think we talk about Joshua Wilder. Why don't they just do that? Like, why, you know. Yeah, like I said, don't work like that, Dana. You know, you've got politics, you've got different promoters. The governing body thing, PBC looked to do that. You know, PBC, I think their original intention was to create the PBC belt. You have to also remember that WBC, WBA, WBO, IBF, they have heritage. You know, they have history in the sport of boxing. And young fighters coming through want to win their championships. Sanction fees are expensive. You know, mandatories can be annoying, but they're also part of boxing as well. And you can't discredit or not value the value of a WBC World Championship or any governing body World Championship, because these guys in the ring, that's what they want to win. They don't want to win a PBC World Championship. And I know it's got to start somewhere if you're breaking away from that. So if you turn around and you say, right, we are not acknowledging the governing bodies anymore, we are going to create the Matchroom World Championships. All right? I couldn't even, with my heart of hearts, promote a show saying if you win a Matchroom World Championship, you are a boxing world champion. You know?
Right.
But although I'm only 40, I know you're looking at me saying you are not 40, you're much younger than that. I'm an older school boxing fan where I say, no, you've got the 4 governing bodies, you know, they're the world championships. So if Dana came in and said we're going to create the Zuffa or the UFC championship of boxing, don't forget UFC started really the MMA world from scratch. There was no Sugar Ray Robinson, there was no Muhammad Ali, there was no Ring Magazine belt, you know. So,
and there was no competition.
No, and yeah, exactly. That's the bigger problem that they've got in boxing. Boxing would drive Dana White absolutely mental. And he probably couldn't get his head around it. But he's a very smart man. He's a great promoter.
One of the issues, like you talked about, with these sanctioning bodies and mandatories, it looks like Triple G's running into that right now. Assuming Canelo doesn't take him for that 3rd fight, which doesn't seem like Canelo's keen to do, he has no choice but to fight this IBF mandatory. There's no Charlo, there's no Demetrius Andre, no Sanders.
I think everything's about who is possibly next and timing as well. For example, if Canelo turned around after the Kovalev fight and said, I will fight you in May, I think that, you know, could possibly find a way around it. But I think for Gennady, I don't think Gennady wants to have to wait for anybody. He wants to plan his future. But he did have a very tough fight on Saturday. You know, if he would have knocked Derevyanchenko out in 2 or 3 rounds, I think he would have just jumped in January or February against Eremeta and cleared the mandatory and then moved on. But I'm going to see him next week, hopefully, and just sit down and see how he's feeling. You've got Demetrius Andrade unification. You know, you've got Billy Joe Saunders, you've got Callum Smith. You've got all these great fights out there for him. He wants the Canelo fight, of course he does, and, you know, he's getting to a stage now where he wants that sooner rather than later. And that's what he signed up for. You know, he signed up for that Canelo fight. So we as a team will be pushing that fight, but we also won't be waiting. You know, so if the IBF turn around and say, no, your mandatory is next, maybe he deals with that and still tries to make the May fight as well.
He's even told me himself that the belts don't mean what they used to. He's about business now. He wants to make as much money as possible. You're his promoter. I'm certainly you want to make as much money for him as possible. Saunders fight, Callum Smith, even Andre. Is it possible that the route for him is maybe to put those mandatories aside and just shoot for big fights? He's 37, even, you know.
I think so, but at the same time, he doesn't want to lose his status as world champion. If those fights, you know, if those big fights are there, I do think that would change his situation. But right now, they're not, you know, they're not signed, they're not on the table. So if they're not by a certain point, I think you'll see Gennady say, right, I'm gonna go and fight my mandatory, and then you guys let me know.
What about Demetrius Andrade, who's having much the same problem? Boy, you're having opponent issues.
Yeah.
Stephen Butler apparently is taking Murata instead. Yeah. So what is? Again, it seems like Demetrius is left out in the cold without a dance partner.
He's got to basically do what the others have got to do, who no one really wants to fight, and that's probably fight each other. You know, no one really wants to fight Billy Joe Saunders. No one really wants to fight Callum Smith. So fight each other. You know, that's going to be the best way for these guys to deal with it. And And I think Billy Joe Saunders just announced his opponent today. He's going to win that, and then he's going to be ready for the big fights in 2020. And next for Billy Joe, if he beats Caceres, will be Canelo, Callum, Golovkin, or Andrade. Has to be, or Jacobs. Has to be one of them as the next fight, because all these guys, the biggest problem for these guys is creating that legacy. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. They've got the money, most of them. And to be fair to them, although they all want money, they really are at stages in their career where they want the mega fights. Like, we know money comes with it, but they actually genuinely want the fights they can be remembered for. All of the names that I mentioned, and that's a nice situation to be in. So, I don't think if you asked Demetrius Andrade who his #1 fight was, it wouldn't be Billy Joe Saunders, and vice versa. But they're not afraid to fight each other if the others don't materialise, because they're not desperate for those fights, but they really want them ASAP.
And you talk about fighters wanting money in big stages. When this fight was initially announced, you talked about Zaire, you talked about Manila, you talked about these strange locations for fights. But every time there's any upset in the Middle East or any kind of disturbance, everybody gets on Twitter and everybody gets onto each other like, "Hey man, is this fight in trouble?" Is the fight in Saudi Arabia solid? And do you worry that anything can happen at any time that takes this thing off the map?
It's totally solid. The plans are so deep. Anything can happen. We could have a fight in Chicago, and there could be a terrorist act, right? That could cancel the event. We live in a world where anything can happen. But the truth is right now, everything is 100% solid. The tickets will go on sale on Sunday, and there'll be an announcement about that later this week. So, yeah, all good.
We haven't heard much from Joshua recently, or even Ruiz. What are those guys' spirits like? I know more you don't know what Joshua than
Ruiz tweeted the other day, 9 weeks to go, you with me? Joshua is very, very focused. I can't believe it's still 9 weeks. It was 8 weeks this Saturday, so it's very, very exciting. Very exciting, but for many different reasons. Firstly, because who knows what's going to happen in the fight. But secondly, because this is groundbreaking stuff. This is Saudi. This arena is going to blow your socks off. You're going to be there going, "Fucking, this is crazy." There's going to be everybody there at ringside. The fight week stuff's going to be unbelievable. Music, concerts. They're going to throw everything at it. It's going to be a mega event. And it will be one where people stop. All those ones you talked about earlier, they were events held in controversial locations that surprised people. Now we've got another one, we've got the same kind of fight. This is of that kind of ilk from that era. And I can't wait.
So you have a whole week of events. We're not just talking about the fight on Saturday. This is going to be...
Wait to see what they do on Fight Week. It will blow your mind.
All right,
they've got one shot at it. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? It's not like we do an O2 event every week. This is their moment. Right, for boxing, they know the whole world is going to be watching, and they're going to put on a show.
Well, according to Derek Chisora, the whole world is going to be watching on the 26th, just his fight, and then they're going to...
Judging by the response yesterday, I think they will be. I mean, just such an intriguing fight, It's like one of those where I pressed the post button on social media. Yeah. I was like, this is going to... I don't like this. You get a few moans, do you know what I mean? But generally the reply was, shit! As if to say... What the fuck's going to happen there? I don't know. You've got Price, it's so hard. Chisora can be vulnerable, does get hit a lot. Then you've got Chisora, great engine, really durable. Price sort of struggling once he gets that mid-stage of the fight. Anything could happen.
Dare I say, it's as good a matchup as you were going to have anyway. That's a... excitement-wise.
Maybe not on a global scale, but for British scale, much bigger. And much more intriguing. I think a lot of people fancy Parker to beat Chisora, but,
That is exciting. This is going to be exciting.
This is edge of your seat stuff. So, yes, it's huge.
Oh, man, I think I might be thinking like a Brit these days. Hey, that's not hanging out with you, man. Yeah. Radio Rahim with Eddie Hearn in Chicago this Saturday night. Usyk versus Chaz Witherspoon. So you used to saying Tim when I say Witherspoon. Chaz Witherspoon and Usyk getting it on Chicago this Saturday. Thank you, Eddie. Radio Rahim with Eddie Hearn.